Catherine, welcome and thank you for joining me today. In a previous discussion, Brad and I had gone over the topic of the difference between the TM and the R symbol. And now that I understand that regardless of whether I go forward and register my trademark with the USPTO, that I have existing rights. So my question is, why should I go forward and follow through with the application? Why am I going to take the time? Why am I going to spend the money if I have existing rights anyway?
That's a great question, Sarah, and one that I'm asked a lot. So the question is, if I already have trademark rights without registering my trademark, why should I bother registering at all? And just to be clear, we're talking about registration with the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, the USPTO. That's the national U.S. office. So it's a great question. The easiest way to understand it is that if you do not register your trademark with the USPTO, then you have to prove your trademark rights. So whether you're enforcing your trademark or someone is suing you and you are trying to defend yourself, you have to actually provide evidence of use and, going back multiple years. And this is what I was using it in connection with, because remember, with trademarks, it's not just the trademark, it's also how you're using it. Are you using it as a trademark? Which goods and services are you using it with? What is it understood? What do consumers see it as? So when you have an unregistered trademark rights, you have to prove all of that with evidence, and that can be very difficult. And if you're not great at keeping records, it can be impossible. And even if you can do it, it's expensive, because anytime you're in a situation where you have to prove things in court, you're talking about legal fees, you're talking about, big document production, and it's expensive. With registration, you don't have to do all that. The beautiful thing about it is the registration itself means the trademark office already verified a lot of that stuff. So the certificate is evidence. It is of your trademark rights. You just present your certificate, and the information on the face of it is taken by a judge as meaning something. So it's not like someone can't prove that you were lying, and it's not completely unrebuttable. But the point is, you don't have to introduce evidence to prove what's on that certificate. You present the certificate, and that counts. So this is a huge advantage. In many cases, it's an advantage in most cases, because you don't get to court at all if you have registered your trademark early, and then you need to enforce it. Someone is copying it and you need to send a cease and desist letter, which we do all the time, as you know. All you have to do is you put the certificate of registration in with the letter, and you send it and you say, look, we have the registered trademark for this trademark in this field, and your use is infringing, so you have to change. And if they take that letter maybe they think that you're wrong and they have rights because they've been using it. When they go to a lawyer like us and show us, and I've been in this position and it breaks my heart, if they've come after, if their use starts after the filing date on that registration, that certificate, then my unfortunate response to them is, I'm really sorry, but you are going to have to change your name. You do not have the right to use this trademark. So let me just rewind a little bit and hit on the important things in what I just said. A filing date on the registration certificate is what's important. So they may look at it and it might say that the registration was granted, say, December of 2021. And they say, aha, I was using it in June of 2021. But it's not the registration date that's important. The certificate is evidence of national exclusive trademark rights going back to the date it was filed. So let's say it was filed in December of 2020. That's why I then have to show the person that's in my office, I'm really sorry, but this certificate means that these guys have rights to this trademark going back to December of 2020. And if you started in June of 2021, you did not have the right to use it. It was already theirs. Even if, by the way, and this is what's really amazing, even if they started using it in September of 2021, so in that scenario, you know, the person in my office who is upset and received this letter was actually the first user in the United States of this trademark, but they were not the first person to file it because, yeah. And so that seems really unfair, but that's the way it is. And so I'm going to strongly advise that person to just change their name because it's the cheapest way out of this situation. If they fight, they'll lose and it'll cost them a bunch of money. I mean, there's sort of no, you know, and I'm giving you an example of where it's exactly the same mark for exactly the same goods. Yeah. You know, that doesn't always happen, but at the end of the day, it's pretty much a losing battle to fight a registered trademark unless you have a really good argument and a lot of money to prove it. So that's, you know, the biggest important reason to do it, is it just gives you a huge advantage when you're enforcing your trademark. So it saves you a whole lot of money in legal fees. And it's also just faster. Anyone who's ever been in a lawsuit knows it takes a long time. So if you can get someone to change their name with a letter and, you know, a couple of months.
Yeah, that's the power of a registered trademark. That's impressive.
Yeah, it's very powerful. Just to give you an example, if you have two unregistered trademarks and they're battling it out, so unregistered trademark over here, unregistered trademark over here, then you're looking at who was first and, you know, where they were understood, you know, where their customers were. So you could get into a situation where one is pretty well known in the South and one is pretty well known in the Northwest, and like slowly they expand and then they're getting confused in the Midwest. That does happen, and that's really unfortunate. This is another reason to do some trademark clearance searching. I know that Brad talked about that in another one of these videos. And by the way, even in my scenario of the unfortunate person in my office in December of 2021 getting the cease and desist, if they had done their clearance searching in June, they would have seen that 2020 application, and I would have advised them to change it, to not go forward with the name they were planning. It's always better to know ahead of time before you go and you start, you know, hanging out your shingle with a name that you can't actually end up protecting. So that's the other example, and the other big reason, the big advantage of trademark registration with the USPTO.